With a clear appeal to Russia and a strong plea for democracy and the courage to change, Frank-Walter Steinmeier is entering a second term as federal president. "Let's not be afraid, let's grab the future by the horns," he demanded in a speech to the Federal Assembly. "Nothing has better answers for the future than democracy. Anyone who fights for democracy has me on their side," promised Steinmeier. "Whoever attacks them will have me as an opponent," he said. The president had previously been re-elected federal president by a large majority. He is only the fifth federal president with a second term. It officially starts on March 19th. Right at the beginning of his speech, Steinmeier addressed Russian President Vladimir Putin with strikingly clear words and clearly gave him responsibility for the escalation in the Ukraine conflict. "I appeal to the President Putin. Untie the noose around Ukraine's neck and join us in finding a way to preserve peace in Europe," he said. The Russian president should not make the mistake of underestimating the strength of democracy. The same message has come from Washington, Paris, and Berlin these days. "We want peaceful neighborhoods with mutual respect." Steinmeier emphasized that peace had to be worked out again and again in dialogue, but where necessary also with clarity, deterrence, and determination. Germany's message to the NATO partners in Eastern Europe is, "You can rely on us." At the same time, the federal president promised that he would not avoid dealing with radical opponents of the corona policy. "As federal president, I will not shy away from controversy. Democracy needs controversy," he said. The pandemic has left deep wounds in society. After 2 years of the pandemic, there's frustration and irritation, and there have also been mistakes. But, ladies and gentlemen, show me an authoritarian system that would have gotten through this crisis better, he said, emphasizing, "We shouldn't hide our light under a bushel, despite all the self-criticism that is necessary." Steinmeier described the fight against climate change as a question of humanity's survival. Even before the Federal Assembly, there had been no doubts about his re-election. In the very first ballot on Sunday, he received a large majority of around 73%. Steinmeier, who was nominated by the so-called traffic light parties SPD, Greens and FDP, and by the CDU-CSU opposition, received 1,045 of 1,425 valid votes. According to his parliamentary group, the former parliamentary group leader in the AfD in the Bundestag, Alexander Gauland, did not take part in the election of the federal president. A spokesman for the parliamentary group said that Gauland and 4 other AfD members of the Bundestag had their evidence of corona tests not being recognized. They had undergone a spit test. That was done under the supervision of parliamentary group member Christina Baum, a dentist. 5 other faction members who said were also tested by Baum in the same way were admitted to the Federal Assembly, the spokesman said. The arbitrary recognition or rejection of negative test results that were created under identical conditions by the same doctor is scandalous, said Gauland. The Bundestag administration said Gauland's test had not been recognized. A spokeswoman said testing at another location had only been accepted by a care provider under the coronavirus testing regulation as amended on January 7th. People with results from test centers that were not included were generally rejected. In special cases, tests were also possible directly with a parliamentary doctor without waiting until shortly before the meeting, said the spokeswoman. This was offered to individual members of the Bundestag. All parliamentary groups were involved in the planning and implementation of the corona protection concept for the major event from the start. And the spokesman for the extreme right-wing AfD faction confirmed that MPs whose test certificates were not recognized were offered an on-site test option. However, he could not say who ultimately made use of this opportunity. It is certain that in the end a total of 133 AfD members and celebrities invited by them took part in the Federal Assembly, he said. Is the worst corona wave in Germany to date coming to an end? After the number of infections has been climbing since the turn of the year, the numbers have been falling again for a few days. The reason for the most severe wave of infections to date is the rapid spread of the Omicron variant. It is considered to be more contagious than the Delta variant, but at the same time causes less severe causes. More than 76% of citizens in Germany have also received at least one vaccination. Before the Corona Summit of the federal and state governments on Wednesday, Federal Finance Minister Christian Lindner is campaigning for extensive opening steps. The healthcare system is coping with the Omicron wave and there is no threat of structural overload, says the liberal politician to the German newspaper Handelsblatt. That's why widespread encroachments on our freedom are no longer proportionate, he said. In the areas of education, trade, gastronomy, culture, sport, and in the companies, you have to take a noticeable step towards normality. The 2G rules should be repealed immediately and replaced with the wearing of FFP2 masks. Contact restrictions for vaccinated and recovered should be dropped. There should no longer be any restrictions on people outside. We have to start the process now and normalize life step by step, said Lindner. North Rhine-Westphalia's Prime Minister Hendrik Wüst from the Christian Democrats has spoken out in favor of lifting corona restrictions. He said, "Thanks to the milder course of the disease, we are entering a new phase of the pandemic, which opens up prospects for gradual openings," and he said that to the German newspaper Welt. However, he restricted one thing. These must be secured by basic protection so that we do not have to take them back again. After almost 3 weeks of freeway blockades, some climate protection groups from the so-called Uprising of the Last Generation group demonstrated at the Chancellery in Berlin. In front of Chancellor Olaf Scholz's official residence, they dug up a piece of lawn with spades to plant potatoes, as their spokeswoman Sonja Manderbach said. They renewed the demand for a law against food waste. The police intervened, confiscated the spades, according to Manderbach, and took personal details. A police spokeswoman confirmed the operation, but initially gave no details. She spoke of 20 to 30 demonstrators. There were brown holes in the ground on a piece of lawn in front of the Chancellery, as can be seen on a lot of photos that are being published at the moment. The same group has been blocking freeways since the end of January, mainly in Berlin, but also in Hamburg, Munich, and some other cities. In the meantime, they have been receiving sharp criticism from motorists, but also from federal politics because traffic and people could be endangered. The group calls for a food rescue law, as they put it, and an agricultural turnaround to reduce greenhouse gases from agriculture. Regarding the action on Saturday, they explained, since Chancellor Olaf Scholz is still a long time coming with a necessary announcement as to when there will be a food rescue law, vegetables are now being grown in front of his office. And I'll see you in my next video. Bis gleich.